Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever in this great world you might be. My name is Jack Branch, and this is the Healthy Wealth Show that we do most every Tuesday and Thursday, where we highlight people that are at the front of their industries, if you will, disruptors, trying to have people, get through what I call the valleys in life. There's a lot of times when we're on the top of a mountain and the view looks really crystal clear and we can see everything, but there's those times when we're really in the valleys between the top of the mountain and really the deep, dark places in business, life, health, where we really get refined and grow. And today I'm really excited. There's a gentleman that has been a mentor in my life through the Action Coach Network, Dan Zemansky. I interviewed him early on this show. And today we've got a mentor of his actually through the network who's got some very good things to shine light on. And that's a new friend of mine, Monte. How are you doing, my friend?
Jack, I'm doing outstanding.
So tell people a little bit about you and how you got started in doing business coaching and what's led you kind of to this place where you're at with this, I think, Wall Street Journal and Amazon bestseller, right? That you're being recognized on this book.
And even USA Today. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm an Iowa farm boy. My parents and family still farms in northeast Iowa, and I went to Iowa State and studied agriculture, ag business, and then I went to work for an agricultural chemical manufacturer. And lived in North Dakota, South Dakota, Chicago, Sacramento, Kansas City, and then finally back to Iowa after 3 mergers and 6 different jobs, whatever it might be within the company. And I started traveling way too much. And in 2004, I guess it's been almost 15 years, I left that industry and I found business coaching and started working with business owners, executives, CEOs, and helping them bring clarity to how they lead and manage their organizations. And that's just really important to me. And every organization needs help in how they lead and manage their business.
That's true. You can have a great concept, but without leadership, what good is it, right? I mean, I think Simon Sinek hits the nail on the head when he says there's a lot of people that make computers, but why is it that Apple has resonated with so many of them, right? Because they really understand the why behind it all, And I'm excited to hear this endeavor that Dan's locking arms with you on, really, helping these organizations really thrive, right? I mean, I know that's really part of your mission and focus with this is getting people beyond just doing good, but how can they do exceptional?
Absolutely. Our concept, the book is called Pulling Profits Out of a Hat, but our concept is what we're calling adding zeros. We want to add zeros to every area of every business out there, not just revenue and profit, but engagement with your employees, new acquisition of clients, new acquisition of employees, how we're engaged in the community, how we're following through and implementing all of our plans. That's adding zeros in every aspect of it. So we're doing that by teaching every organization the disciplines that they need to be successful.
So how do you define a successful business? I mean, in your just a simplistic method.
You bet. There's about 5 key words that I use in defining a great business. And the first one is sustainable, meaning that it's going to be around for a long time. I really believe that organizations should outlast the people that are in it, and that becomes a great business. The second word is predictable. We want to make sure that we're able to predict our future of the business by knowing our numbers, by having great marketing, great sales activity, and great customer service. The third word in the great business is having stability. Our people are what creates stability in a business. And we've got to have the right people. We've got to train them. We've got to develop them. We've got to help them become leaders. The next word is consistency. A great consistent business is consistent on the inside and the outside. How we're interacting with our employees, but also how we're following through with our customers, how we do everything that we do. People know what to expect. And the last phrase that I'll put to a great business is they have an emotional connection. People are attracted to it. They're connected to it emotionally because it's doing great things. It has great beliefs. It has great values. So a great business is sustainable, predictable, stable, consistent, and has an emotional connection.
That's phenomenal. I can relate to a lot of your story. I was on the road for many years too, and I don't miss it. And it's nice to have technology where you're in Iowa, I'm outside of New Orleans, and we can almost interact now just as we are together. What do you believe is sometimes the downfall to some of this technological, using this infrastructure in your estimation? What do you see people doing that may, be separating them from really doing great things in business?
One of the things about our disciplines that I talk about, it's about creating organizational disciplines. Most businesses are built off of the discipline of a person. We need to create discipline in the organization, how we do things as a business, no matter who's in the chair. Yes, we want to have the expertise of every individual, but we've got to have our disciplines as an organization. And once you have those consistencies, yes, we want the creativity of each person. We want each person's uniqueness. And as an organization, we have to make sure we are doing the right things no matter who's in the business.
I guess my question was, don't you find many organizations might send an email versus walking down the hall and be belly to belly and have that relational aspect? Yes, it's easy, but we might lean on technology somewhat instead of using it as a real sharp tool. So I think that's what I see so often. I know in the corporate world, there was so much of that, the blind copying and everybody copying, all levels of management to cover their butts. And it doesn't lean itself to an environment, if you will, where people feel empowered. They feel, treasured and valued in the organization. And I think that's really kind of the thing that I see so much about what you're up to is just because an organization's doing okay doesn't mean that, like you said, it will be sustainable. It will be all those things. So what's the point in operating a business if it only lasts during your lifetime, right? I mean, the greatest organizations are around for decades or hundreds of years. And I know,
absolutely.
And I know right there in your backyard in Des Moines, I mean, probably the insurance mecca. There's companies that have been around forever. And I always find it interesting when people say, well, what do you think happens when the insurance companies go defunct? And I'm like, well, if that happens, we're all in big trouble. There will be less worry about your money if the insurance companies collapse.
You're exactly right. In the discipline I'm referring to is the discipline to have communication, not letting technology take over for us. We still have to have relationships, and that's one of the disciplines is people, and that discipline is all about teaching our team how to be great leaders, developing our team to be the best they can be in their jobs. And that's, if we let technology take away all of the things that make businesses great, the relationships, the people side of it, it's going to be a hard road for the business.
It really is. And so you've been doing, obviously, coaching with small business owners and people that are running great organizations. What was the moving piece for you to say, I want to even move the needle more for businesses to think well beyond maybe $1 million, $5 million of revenue, and people thinking bigger about what they may have?
This has probably been about a 8 to 10 year journey for me. It's probably been 8-9 years ago that I started having interest in larger companies because they have, and when I say larger, I'm saying 10 million to $1 billion in revenue. They have just as many challenges as small businesses. In fact, they probably have more because it's more exponentially challenging because they have more people to manage and lead and take care of. And the more I got into those organizations, the more that I talked to them. Some of them are doing very well in a lot of areas, and then there's a couple small discipline areas that they need improvement in. And once you correct those small things, it is a greater opportunity to grow your business because you are disciplined. And most Most businesses, it's not discipline. It's more on, well, do we have time to do that? You got to create the discipline. We can make decisions, but it takes discipline to follow through.
And that's true. And that's what I love about your model with Action Coach is there's a lot of consultants out there that just give you a binder, come in, do the diagnosis. But how often are there people truly walking through you in the trenches day after day, week after week, quarter after quarter to put together consistent a collection of wins, right? I mean, that's what we're ultimately trying to do in predictability. And I find more and more quasi-consultants and less guys that are willing to get in there. And it's encouraging, it's encouraging. And I think, hearing you talk about these adding zeros, it's really just simple processes, procedures, and execution. And it's not really what you're doing, it's what you're not doing, and maybe that's costing you a lot of money.
In a lot of ways, and I position this with my clients, I'm not here to cause you more work. I'm here to help you do the work you're doing more efficiently. And that's what businesses need. We've got so much going on, so much workload. People need the right focus. People need the right priorities. And a lot of it is how we do things. We know what to do, and we're trying to do so much what that we're missing the how we do it. I think of it this way, and this is a great phrase that I want everybody to remember. It's you lead people and you manage processes. We can't manage people. We've tried managing people. It doesn't work. Nobody wants to be managed. But we lead people by sharing a vision, getting them engaged in where we're headed as an organization, why we're doing what we're doing, getting energy behind them. That's leadership. And, the second part of management of processes, we've got to determine what's our way of working. How do we measure success? What are the actions that create success? And how are we managing the process to get there? We lead people and manage processes on a daily basis. And so that's a phrase I want everybody to think about of how can we get our team more excited to lead them to something in the future or something later this day, later this week, and what are the things we're going to manage on activity, on production, on process to get them there.
So what do you think is in dealing with these businesses that want to scale to a larger thing, is the mindset that's needed for these organizations to thrive, you think?
The biggest mindset that I think is powerful is a mindset of abundance. The opposite of abundance is scarcity. Scarcity says there's not enough. There will never be enough. And I got to fight for what little I have. That's scarcity. Abundance says there's more than enough for everyone. There will always be enough. And that mindset of abundance is a challenge to get and keep. I go through the same roller coaster as well because of daily activities. We all go through that, but we have to teach our organizations and the business leaders, the business managers of organizations have to see that an abundant mindset is we can accomplish a lot. And the question to get there is how can we? Most people get challenged on we need to accomplish this and they say I can't do that. Well, the question we have to get used to saying and following through on is how can we?
That's good.
That's an abundant mindset. An abundant mindset says, how can we make this work? How can we make progress? How can we influence this? Whatever it might be. So abundance thinking is challenging, but this world has so much resource out there. This world has so much opportunity, and the world is so small. This week alone, I've talked to people in Japan, Vietnam, Indonesia, Australia, and the UK. And I'm in Iowa. Those are just countries that I've talked to, and I bet I've talked to 6 or 7 states just in the last couple days. This is a small world, but it's a big world full of opportunity. And with an abundant mindset, you see opportunity and you talk about how can we go after it instead of, well, we got all we can. That's all we can do. That's scarcity.
That's good. There was a book, I forgot, it was Garden Your Cheese or something like that. I didn't read it all, but who's guarding the cheese and that small, scarce mentality. Show people the book, if you will. I don't have one right here in front of me. We're talking.
I think it's Who Moved Your Cheese. It's on my bookshelf in the other room, but it's Who Moved Your Cheese. And you're exactly right. Is change happens every single day, and that's the only thing that we know is constant. Whether it's the stock market changes, the local businesses change, the economy changes, decisions change. It's how we respond to those changes. That's an abundant thinking, again, of how are we going to respond in a positive way to get to a new result.
And most business owners, even big organizations, are reacting more than they're responding.
But there is a big difference between reacting and responding.
And I've been guilty of that. I know you said, I find myself abundance, but at times I get, caught up in the things that I see versus the infinite belief that there is enough and there's plenty. And if I just keep doing the right activities consistently, the results will come. But we get caught in this results or the outcome mentality, I think, that keeps us stuck in that scarcity. And once we stop looking at what is versus what is in process, the more we'll be abundant, I believe. So show people your book, if you will, which we're talking about today, which is Pulling Profits Out of a Hat. And this is Monte Wyatt. Yeah, there it is. And where can they get this book? About anywhere, right?
It's everywhere. It's at Amazon. It's Books A Million, Barnes & Noble. It's in the airports. I was traveling last week, and I get pictures almost daily of people saying, "Hey, I just went through this airport and saw your book," and they took a picture of it. So that's pretty cool, seeing it in airports as you travel. I had to take a picture with myself in an airport the other day with the book, and that's pretty neat.
Well, I'm excited about this endeavor you guys are on. So who's a good target for you guys in this initiative, not only for the book, but then also finding out more about how you could take the book to more of an individual analysis to see, hey, if you guys, you, Dan, other people in your organization might be able to help them?
Absolutely. The first thing I'll say is everyone in every business should read the book. It's about how each person can bring value to their organizations. And that's how we pull profits out of the hat is getting everyone engaged. So I want everyone to read it because they can see how they can take ownership. My target audience ultimately is a CEO and their executive team, because here's my belief, and maybe you've heard this too. The world says, engagement's at an all-time low for employee engagement. And my first challenge is, let's look at the executive teams. If the employee base isn't engaged, well, who are they watching? Who are they following? And so I want to help the executive team guide their business, lead their business, and doing that in a fashion of how are we leading it in an area? We know what goals that we're going towards. We know what benchmarks. We know how we're getting there. And I facilitate a process that I call strategic thinking and execution planning. And I help the CEO and their executive teams with that big picture thinking of where are we going and how are we going to win, and then how do we make it a day-to-day activity. Oftentimes people go and they take a 2-day retreat and they're going to create their strategic plan. Well, they come back and they've had great conversations, but then the plan sits on the shelf. We have to think strategically, but then we've got a plan for how we're going to execute and implement. And that's the biggest, or one of the biggest values of working with our clients, is helping them implement, because there's a lot of knowledge out there. There's no shortage of knowledge with the internet, and heck, there's video blogs and everything every single day on YouTube, and you name it, you can find all kinds of knowledge. I think most people, their knowledge has outpaced their implementation. And my objective is to help organizations implement the right tools, the right time, to help make sure their entire organization is growing.
Wow, that's good, man. We're talking about Pulling Profits Out of a Hat book on the USA Today list as well as Amazon list, and it's just growing and growing, and it's really about leading by example. I think would be the best way to discuss this, as many organizations have a lot of detached leaders, and maybe conversely they have a lot of detached followers. So the more connected we can become and get those folks that are at the top it will create a culture. I mean, I think about places like Southwest, and I mean, people that they don't work there necessarily for just the money. Yeah, the money's good, but they work there because of the culture.
Absolutely.
I mean, Herb Keller has created an unbelievable enterprise, even down to the colors, where you see those colors and you just think that's Southwest.
I think the biggest area, I would say in the last 2 years that I've helped organizations with, and I still think that trend's going to continue, is in the area of culture and environment of a business. And every organization has a culture. And sometimes they don't like what it is, but we have to choose it and we have to create it. And a lot of my clients, I help them define their core values, and then how do we implement them? How do we make it part of our daily lives? Again, it's not about doing more. It's about how are we doing things? And we talk about interacting with our employees, talk about interacting with customers. That's the how we do things. And that's a part of the culture. And if all we're focused on is the bottom line and we don't develop our team or we don't develop the culture, the bottom line won't happen, or it might in the short term, but long term it won't exist.
You're going to have burnout, or people, I think about, there was a guy back when I was in technology, before I even got in the financial industry. I was working for a company called iOmega, and we were big. It was the zip disk. I don't know if you remember it, but man, you could store 100 megabytes. And I remember at the time that I was managing Best Buy. It was our largest customer, and we were doing $200 million with that customer. CD, all this DVD was coming in on this magnetic storage. And this gentleman from Palm Pilot came over, and all they wanted was $60,000 to mark down some inventory on a $200 million business. And the guy told him to shove it up there. And I said, look, that ain't going to work with this Midwest behemoth. And they cut our business to $6 million on the spot from $200 million. And that was the best learning experience, I thought, about what the lack of leadership really looked like versus what the leadership you're talking about developing looks like. And I think we're congruent that is a skill that is developed. It's not done by DNA and birth, right?
Yeah. I think the business world today has really combined those two words, leadership and management, and they're not the same. Just because you're a manager does not make you a great leader. And you can be a leader without being a manager. And that's the challenge. Is the world has said that leaders and managers are the same. I look at leadership, it's about you're creating passionate and focused people, and you're influencing people. You're passionate and focused yourself. And management, you're creating competent and productivity inside your organization. And that's a big challenge. Is we need more of both. People are afraid to be a manager. I don't want to be a micromanager, so then we don't manage anything. Well, I want to be a leader, and I can't be a leader until I'm a manager. No, you influence people every day in how you communicate, how you relate, how you engage with other people. So we need more leadership, and we need more management today.
It's really yes and, right? Not either or. And
absolutely.
I think we just built this silo that I'm just great at that, and that's all I'm going to do. And although that sounds great, the reality is we have to be multifaceted in an organization that's going to thrive and grow to do these things that you're talking about. It's not for the weak at heart. But what do you want people to know from writing the book and this new initiative? What's one thing, a call to action, other than just buy the book? We definitely want them to go do that, and I'll post a link below afterwards. But what's one thing that gets you up every morning and drives you around this pulling profits out of a hat initiative?
The big thing that drives me is creating the culture in organizations that we care about people. We care about the process of getting there, and it's a long-term view of it. We've got to create long-term sustainability in every business out there, and it's a change in the way we think and change in the way that we focus. So if you want that discipline in your organization, I'll gladly offer a 5 disciplines assessment at no charge. If you reach out to me, Monte at MonteWyatt.com, and reach out, and I'll gladly do a 5 disciplines assessment for your organization, just to help you see where your strengths are in relation to these disciplines and where you can grow and improve, because I want every organization to grow.
That's awesome, Monty. I really appreciate your time, sir. And for all you listening, I hope this has inspired you, even if you have a small, medium-sized business or a large, multinational company. You first need to take some assessment and ownership that maybe you're not doing as good as you think you could be. And that's okay. It takes a bigger leader and a bigger person to admit we need help. But then the next thing is you then need to go get that help. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, knowing Dan, my colleague that's connected with Monty, that you need to buy this book. I thank you for your time today, Monty. And folks, definitely follow Monty and stay tuned to great things from pulling profits out of a hat. Y'all have a blessed day.
Jack, thank you.
Thank you.